Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the EV Geek podcast. We are your hosts, Joel and Sebastian, and today we're exploring a fascinating topic: 5 electric vehicles that you might not have heard of. As the EV market expands, there are more and more models to pick from, regrettably, leaving some to be pushed towards the back of the shelf. In today's episode, we hope to identify a few of these forgotten EVs and determine if they're hidden gems or if they're better off forgotten. So let's dive in and uncover some hidden gems in the electric vehicle world. Who knows? One of these just might be your next dream car.
All right. First on our list is the Genesis electrified G80. So Genesis actually has like 3 EV models that honestly I probably could have chosen from and put on this list, but I felt like the G80 was the most forgotten one. So the G80 is a full-size luxury sedan, and as of the end of Q3 2024, Genesis has sold a whopping 295 of the electrified G80s. So the electrified G80 is built on the same platform as its counterpart, not on the EGMP platform such as the other Hyundai Kia EVs. However, it has an 87.2 kilowatt hour battery pack that is technically a 800 volt class pack, although it's more of a 500-ish volt pack. It has a peak charge rate of around 230 kilowatts and a very similar curve to the EGMP vehicles. EPA range is 282 miles. The electrified G80 starts at $75,000 and can be optioned up to a $82,000, which honestly isn't as big of a range as I thought it would be. I think this is a solid choice. I mean, it's a big, nice luxury car. The pricing is pretty decent, but it still suffers from the same problem Genesis suffers in general. It's competing in a very crowded space against brands that the people that buy those brands, right? It's competing against the EQS and the EQE, or BMW i7s, or Lucid Airs, or Model S, and it's the same thing that they struggle with on their gas cars as well. As the gas cars are competing against 5 Series and 7 Series BMWs and E-classes and S-classes and yada, 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 etc. But I think it's a solid vehicle, especially, with that charging curve is great. The range is acceptable, especially considering if you can charge it in the same kind of roughly 20-minute time. But it's only sold 295 of them.
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting a car from the Hyundai Motor Group, it's going to have solid tech. I mean, it's going to have really good tech. But as soon as you start talking about this, with even looking at the notes, I thought EQS, that's what I was thinking. EQS, first thing that pops in my mind when I think of this price range, this kind of luxury car, I think of EQS. When you think of luxury, you don't really think of Genesis. You do think of Audi a little bit, and BMW and Lucid Air and Model S. Those kind of are, when you talk of luxury, those are the kinds of ones that pop in your mind first. It is pricey, for a Genesis, 75 to 82K. When you think of cars like Genesis, you don't think they're that pricey, especially when you're thinking cars from Hyundai and Kia. But it is solid. I mean, it's got a great charging curve. It's got, it's technically an 800 volt system with that 500 volt range. But yeah, I like it. Would I buy one? If I had to choose between that or a Lucid Air or a Model S, probably not. But yeah, but it is a solid car. It's going to be built well.
Yep. It is important to note too, though, like $75,000 is a lot of money, but that's still, I believe, significantly cheaper than a similarly optioned EQS would be, or an i7 would be.
Oh,
and that's kind of always been what Genesis's thing has been. Is it's the same luxury, but for substantially less. Now I use same luxury in air quotes on purpose, but
yep. All right, next one. It's a new one. It's an Acura. So it's the Acura ZDX. Acura has sold roughly about 2,000 of these in 2024, which is not bad considering they just came out a few months ago. It's a 5-passenger SUV EV. This one uses the GM Ultium platform. They partnered for a little bit. They're not partnering anymore. It was just kind of like to help them get their feet off the ground. So if you're looking at the Honda Prologue, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Cadillac Lyric, I believe, kind of similar to this. That's what you're getting with the Acura. It's got 358 to 499 horsepower, rear-wheel drive standard, all-wheel drive available. The ZDX uses, like I said, the GM Ultium battery technology with the same 102 watt battery pack as the Cadillac Lyriq. The battery is said to provide an EP estimate of 313 miles of driving range in the rear-wheel drive and 304 in the all-wheel drive, while the Type S just comes in at 278 miles of range. And here's where it gets a little weird because we don't actually get charging curves with these vehicles. The ZDX can charge at rates as high as 190 kilowatts. I think it's compared to that to what we just heard with the Genesis. Probably in roughly the same price range, which Acura says can add 81 miles of range to the single motor spec in about 10 minutes. So we got to do the math on that to figure out what exactly that is. So that's 240 in 30 minutes if the charging curve stays peaked out, or you got to
carry flat, which we know it doesn't.
Yeah, carry the 1, add the 0, divide by 2 to figure all that out. So you're probably looking at 35-40 minute charging curve on this car, maybe even more. You get leather upholstery as standard, which is cool. And the A-Spec model comes with 12-way power adjustable seats, got the dual zone climate control. Like I said, the price of this is going to, I believe it starts around $66,000. I believe they just came out and goes up to about $75,000, depending on, your trim and options and things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a decent looking car. It has a couple angles on it that are questionable to me.
Yeah.
But, design is subjective. Mm-hmm. Some people love the Ioniq 6. Some people don't, and it's, every car has got, a group of people that will love it and don't. But I don't know. It's one of those, it doesn't really do it for me.
Yep.
It's expensive it's not expensive for a luxury SUV, but I don't think the specs match up with it being a $66,000 car.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It carries the Acura name, so you're thinking you're paying more for the Acura name, but it's really, like I said, it's kind of similar to the Honda Prologue. So, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
It does have a bigger battery pack than the Prologue. The Prologue has the 85 kilowatt hour Ultium pack, and this has the 102. But if I was having to pick between a ZDX and a Lyriq, I think I would pick the Lyriq because the Lyriq looks better, and but again, that's all subjective.
Yes, it is. Lyriq has a little more cleaner lines in the front than the Acura does, in my opinion. Sure. But you may not like that.
Yep, for sure. Mm-hmm. Moving on, this next one, I didn't realize they still sold, and they're actually coming out with a new generation soon. So I'm actually kind of excited about it. It looks like the new one is cute, but the Mini Cooper SE.
Woo!
So far in 2024, Mini has sold around 2,000 units of the all-electric two-door Mini Cooper. So the electric Mini Cooper starts at $30,000 US, has a 32 kilowatt hour battery pack, an EPA rated range of 114 miles, and a claimed peak charge rate of 50 kilowatts with a quoted time to 80% of 36 minutes.
You can almost level 2 charge that amount of time. I mean,
so I don't have a ton of notes on this because I think it's a Mini. I like Minis. I like the way they look. I like their style. I like the kind of the vibe of a Mini Cooper. But in 2024, I'm not spending $30,000 on a car that has a 32 kilowatt hour battery pack. Yep. And I'm not spending $30,000 on a car that can only charge at 50 kilowatt and can only go 114 miles on a charge. That's the same reason I wouldn't necessarily run out and buy a new Leaf unless you were getting a really insane great lease deal. Mm-hmm. Either buy one used if you really want a Leaf, or look at something else that's the same price. And I have the same feelings with the new Fiat 500e, right? Is I just think for what you're getting, the price is too high. I know there are people that love these little city cars. Like there is a market for little city cars. Typically the people that want a little city car like this, but are also willing to spend $30,000 on a new car is not, it's not a Venn diagram. It's just two circles. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like, as much as I love the way this thing looks and I kind of love the way I'm sure it drives and whatnot, I can't get behind it.
Yeah, I mean, when you start getting to the 30s, you're now talking about, Model 3 with tax incentives. So, I mean, I know it's not as low as 30,000, but you're in the same ballpark, you're in the same zip code, which would get what, 3 times as amount of range as this car does.
Yep.
You're also talking about, now you're talking about low end Equinox now. in this price range, maybe, which gets, twice as much, a little bit more than twice as much as this range too. So yeah, I see this as a European vehicle, but that's still expensive for a European EV, so yeah, I it's cool. It's cool looking. It's trendy, but it's just not practical, especially for what we do here in the States. It's just not a practical drive.
Yep.
Next up is everyone's favorite, the Jaguar I-PACE.
I know you say that sarcastically, but I really do like the I-PACE.
Oh, well, you better hurry up and get one, because as of December 2024, they are no longer making these anymore. They're setting off. Rest in peace, Jaguar I-PACE. Probably because they've only sold about 2,200 of these in 2024, which was actually an increase from the 219 they sold in 2023. Yes. So good increase. So when you see those sales come out, it says we've increased our numbers. They have, but still not that much. This is an older EV, so it was first introduced in 2018 and remained largely unchanged over the vehicle's production. I mean, if you look at older ones and new ones, you're not going to see much difference in them. It has an EP rated range of 246 miles, but on a 90 kilowatt pack, it's not very efficient. But it has the LG Chem in it with a quota time of 45 minutes to 10 to 80% with a 100 kilowatt DC charge peak, which is not something you want in a car these days. Over the life, the I-PACE has had some issues, which is probably why they're discontinuing them. They've been plagued with numerous recalls, most of them due with the high voltage batteries. Are these the same battery? We've had this discussion before, I can remember. Are these the same batteries that were in the Bolt?
It's not the same pack, but it's the same supplier.
Okay. So same supplier to the pack. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so
you know
the I-PACE is one of those. I love the way it looks. I think it's a really good, sharp-looking car. I wish Jaguar would have introduced it and then done some, iterative changes over the years to keep it fresh, keep it current. I kind of hate to see that, they're just going to kill it and not really have an immediate replacement for it yet. And because, there's definitely room for improvement, right? Like you said, 246 miles of range from a 90 kilowatt hour pack. Where's your efficiency going on that?
Yeah. Yep.
But, that's one of those things I would have loved to see. That honestly was probably pretty okay for 2018. Although, that's Model 3 came out in 2018. There's a couple. It got beat decently. Yep. But, in 2018, though, 45 minutes to 10 to 80 wasn't awful.
That wasn't.
Especially considering it's only 100 kilowatt DC peak. That's...
Sebastian's doing math for all y'all listening on the podcast audio version of this. So
I'm just trying to think of how that number works. If it's a 90 kilowatt hour pack with a 100 kilowatt peak and it does 10 to 80 in 45 minutes, something anyway.
It should be more like 55, shouldn't it? Or is my math off now too?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm bad at. I'm not going to do math live because I usually get it wrong. But
yeah, if we're wrong, put it in the notes and let us know. So there we go. Thank you.
But yeah, this is just one of those EVs. I've always seen. I remember seeing posters of it, like when I was younger and stuff. It had like in the library when they would go around, and so it was like one of those. Like, oh, this is a cool car.
In the library? How old are we talking here? Where are you going to the library?
Joel, you don't want to know how young I am.
I know. I feel old. Lord, hanging out the library, seeing posters of the Jaguar I-PACE. Jeez. I got to card you when we go to Austin. Make sure you can get into make sure we go somewhere. Jeez. All right. So, yeah. This is it for Jaguar. They've never talked about replacing it, and they don't have any other EVs right now. So I'm kind of concerned just in general for the Jaguar brand right now. What's going to happen with it? So, yep.
All right. And our final car on this list of 5 is it's technically 2 cars. Okay. I'm sorry, but they're also the same car.
Yeah.
So it's the Volvo C40 and XC40. So for those who don't know, the XC40 is more of a traditional crossover, and the C40 is one of those crossover coupes. They're the exact same powertrain, same interior, just a slightly different roofline. So, with that out of the way, these 2 models have only moved roughly 3,500 units so far in 2024, which I think is the highest number we've talked about so far, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, cool. So, these are technically the best selling on this list.
Yes.
They start right around $54,000 and can be had as both rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive vehicles. Interestingly, The rear-wheel drive car has a bigger battery than the all-wheel drive car, and it's cheaper.
That math
Now,
doesn't work either.
it's not like a substantial difference. The rear-wheel drive cars have an 82 kilowatt hour pack, and the all-wheel drive cars have a 78 kilowatt hour pack. But it's still interesting. That's not the direction things usually go.
Yep.
Volvo claims, and this is also interesting. Volvo claims a charge time of 28 minutes from 10 to 80% on the rear-wheel drive, but the smaller battery is 10 to 80% in 34 minutes.
So smaller battery, longer charge time than bigger battery.
Yes. Same peak. Confused yet?
I'm confused. I'm probably going to be. We're not going to figure it out, so yeah.
I personally, though, think that these are both really sharp-looking vehicles, and they use for infotainment-wise, they use the Volvo Android Automotive System, which is typically pretty responsive and easy to use. And unlike GM's implementation of Android Automotive, these vehicles support Apple CarPlay.
Mm-hmm.
However, they don't support Android Auto because you could just do basically everything on an Android phone in Android Automotive natively. And it's important to note, Volvo is one of the few manufacturers that lets you do Apple Maps EV routing in Apple CarPlay, which is cool.
So yeah, I mean these are pretty cool cars. I've always liked the design of Volvos, even when I was younger, not as young as you, but younger. They've always had a kind of cool design, very kind of fresh looking. I always saw Volvo growing up as a luxury for me, and a very safe car. So safe and a very a luxury car growing up. I don't understand why the larger battery, the smaller battery, the large battery charges faster than the smaller battery. I don't understand that. I probably won't understand that. But like you said, it doesn't have Android Auto. It doesn't have Android Auto, but it's built in, which works. I don't have an Android phone, so I really don't care. So Apple CarPlay is cool. Even though I'd never really, in my Tesla and in the EV6, I really don't use Apple CarPlay. I just turn on the satellite radio and just go. Or my Tesla, I just use the built-in radio or Spotify or something like that. There's no need for me to have to use it. So that's just not a deal breaker for me. So yeah, I'm glad they sold 3,500 of these. The price seems to be okay. But yeah, I'm cool car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us today. Do you drive one of these forgotten EVs? If so, please let me know. And if you have anything else you want to add, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification icon before you leave today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you again on our next episode. So long, everyone.